Hello? Hello? What's up? Yeah, I know. I'm just going to let it happen. Hello? Hello? Hey, Broncos. How are you? Good to see you. Hello? Hello? Hey, guys. Welcome to PubKey. Just letting you know we're going to get started with the Bitcoin programming pretty soon. We've got Mark and Solomon that are going to come up here. You can take your time, Mark. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. Okay? We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. All right? If you are in the main room and you're not here for the Bitcoin show, you're welcome to stay. Just letting you know you're about to get a whole bunch of nerddom dropped on you. So enjoy yourselves. All right, everybody. We're going to get started here. Mark and Solomon, please come on up to the stage. Time to talk about sheep and solar panels and Bitcoin mining. Woo! All right.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming. I just wanted to say a couple of words while we wait for Solomon to come on stage. My name is Trey. I'm with the Bitcoin District Initiative. We're a local nonprofit. Our mission is to spread Bitcoin adoption in DC, the communities and businesses of DC. I see Bitcoin as a tool for freedom and prosperity, human flourishing, and the more stories like we can tell tonight with Mark and Solomon, what they're doing on the farm, I think that's a huge win, push forward for Bitcoin adoption. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to PubKey for hosting, and looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming. So this is really cool. I've just had 2 conversations that just kind of impress on me how neat this community is. One, I have a farmer that's coming from northern Pennsylvania. Their family, how long have you guys been in farming? 1880, okay? She had a dairy farm. It's been really, really tough for dairies, and so they've converted to beef cattle, and they have 700 acres, and she's here to like think about innovative new strategies, and man, that fuels me. That's so incredibly cool. And then Nathan just showed up, who I worked with like eons ago when I was at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I was running the Brazil-U.S. Business Council. He built his own boat, and he's now living at the wharf, and he's retired. Like, talk about life goals. So anyway, just those 2 alone, has already made this an incredible evening, and I'm so excited that you took the time, and hope that you'll get something out of the conversation. Josh Phelps is out there. He's my business partner, and he's been bearing the brunt of the agricultural work that we're doing on the farm, so he deserves a lot of credit.
All right, well, thank you once again, PubKey, for having us here tonight. And thank you, Mark, for coming out and being able to talk about Carbon Country and a lot of the exciting things. I've had the pleasure of being able to, over the past year and a half, I'd say, not only see some of the developments firsthand take place on this amazing property and with this farm and with this business, but also be able to help and contribute in many different ways. But for many of those that don't know, Mark, if you don't mind maybe going back, starting off with just maybe some of the background story of yourself and maybe how you guys started in maybe wanting to co-found Carbon Country and maybe how you guys started this all in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Suleiman. Suleiman is our bee expert. He's been helping do all sorts of crazy stuff. He's just a really amazing individual, and he's also an investor. We're just so thankful to him, and it's been awesome to have your involvement. In terms of how this got started, as I mentioned with Nathan, I have been in the, DC government affairs, working for the man for gosh, a long time. I'm old. I got my started at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and among other things, I ran the Brazil-U.S. Business Council, which is where I met Nathan, and I ultimately ended up being the managing director for Western Hemisphere Affairs. So I got the opportunity to lead the business coalition efforts to basically create and help negotiate and then pass all of the post-NAFTA free trade agreements that our friend in the White House is now blowing up. Anyway, but that wasn't just an incredible time, and I got a chance to work with Chile, Peru, Dominican Republic, all the Central American countries, Colombia, Panama. Those are just a few of the countries that we worked on, and it really sort of reinforced, when you have not only worked and lived in a country where the currency is unstable and inflation is rampant. I was in Brazil as an exchange student before the Real plan, and I was living in this house that brought a number of guests, and there was this guy from France, and I never forget, he was like, I was trying to explain how much reals were worth, and he was basically like, well, how many red ones? And he was talking about the currency that had a red color, and he wasn't talking about the value, and that's how crazy inflation can get. Like literally, At that time, it was 1,000% a year. And when you've lived in that kind of economy, you really appreciate the idea of Bitcoin. Like for us in America, like we're so blessed. And so, you know, we still have a government that's blowing up our fiscal situation. But like, relatively speaking, man, like we're we're in a pretty good situation. So I really kind of cut my teeth on that. Then I went and started my own renewable energy company. There we were looking at how we could make Brazilian sugarcane facilities more, basically turn them into power plants for the surrounding countryside. So with steam improvements and other technology improvements. Unfortunately, my timing was terrible. I launched it literally right before the global financial crisis. And it was kind of focused on you know, using private equity money, and private equity basically disappeared for 2 years during the global financial crisis. So we were forced to pivot and ended up partnering with ED&F Man, which was the one of the largest sugar and ethanol traders in the world, and helping them develop their strategy. But ultimately, I ran out of money, and then ended up getting a job as the director of government affairs for the Clorox company. So you know, I was making bleach, making the world safe for bleach, I guess. And I was in charge of starting their international government affairs function. They were in 110 countries. Guess what the leading countries were at the time when I took over? Argentina and Venezuela. Both countries that are completely fucked, like in terms of, you know, like really amazing countries, but like, again, so challenged by inflation, just governments that, you know, haven't really worked, and I'm just, you know, beset by all sorts of societal problems. So, you know, when you do all of that, I got laid off from Clorox right before Thanksgiving in 2023, and after actually passing or changing a regulation that resulted in a $4 billion opportunity for the company. That was my thank you. And so I was like, fuck this, I'm not getting another corporate job. You know, like I'm gonna go try to build my own thing. And so that's what kind of set us off on this journey that ended up being Carbon Country. And I'm happy to like take you through the windy road that like resulted in us like developing this business idea, if you'd like. But that's kind of how it started.
Okay, well, that's very insightful. I didn't know. I learned some stuff from that myself. I didn't know myself. But right behind us here, Mark, we have some photos, especially of the Bitcoin mining operations.
Yeah, that's when they got so loud that I had to start working in the other barn.
So, so right there earlier, that was the ASICs that were basically air cooled, and now we have them in this container. For people that don't know, they're basically the same Bitcoin mining machines are there, but they're inside of these containers, which are filled with a special type of oil, and that type of oil helps cool the machines and keep them more profitable. It reduces the noise and the energy consumption, but if you want to talk maybe a bit about some of the solar and how you guys are mining this Bitcoin.
Yeah, so let me just back up and tell you a little bit about the concept and kind of like the mission and the why, I guess, of what we're doing, and then we can talk specifically about kind of like the tactics and the strategy. The why is, you know, right now in agriculture, we have, you know, you think financial wealth or whatever is incredibly concentrated. Agriculture is even more so. So Today, if you look at the latest USDA farm census, 3% of farms generate 97% of farm income. And the other 97% of those farms are middle-sized farms, small farms that are increasingly going bankrupt, and that land use is turning into something else. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a statistician to see that if we do that over time, we're going to be really challenged to feed ourselves. And the rural communities that we know and love will completely change in terms of the character and what's going on with the land use. So when we came up with this idea, we really found a purpose in creating a new economic model for smallholder farms. And we define smallholder farms by less than 100 acres, really sort of unsuitable for industrial agriculture. And the concept of the business model is if we basically find farms that are in tax-advantaged areas. So we're looking for farms that are in low-income communities, energy communities from an investment tax credit perspective. So we can get up to a 60% tax credit for the investments that we're making on the infrastructure side. And then, they have the appropriate transmission infrastructure, et cetera. And then we stack eco-related businesses on top. So specifically, we're doing agrivoltaics, which is a fancy word for saying that we're doing solar on top of farming. So we're basically, we become our own utility for all intents and purposes. So we're generating our own power. You can see there, this is our first phase. That's 105 kilowatts, and then we have 40 kilowatts of battery storage in the barn. And then we have Bitcoin mining behind the grid, as well as I just mentioned the battery storage. And that basically allows us, so where we are, our utility is called SMECO. It's a rural electrical cooperative, but we can net meter, which is we can sell the excess energy that we generate beyond what we consume for retail rates, but up to 2 megawatts, which is a lot. But the caveat is we can only sell twice what we consume. So what's the best way to generate load? Anyone? Bitcoin mining, exactly. So we're Bitcoin mining behind the grid to create the load that allows us to sell our energy for twice the price of a merchant power PPA. And if you paid attention to energy prices lately, like last year, literally our energy rates went up 17%. In a typical merchant PPA, you get a 3% inflator. So basically, they just give you a 3% increase, and our power price went up 17%. So the way that we have this structured, we are literally minting our own money for free. We're exposed to retail power rates, which are going crazy. And our vision for farming is that when farmers are able to mint their own money and generate their own collateral, they then can become their own bank. And suddenly, things start to really change. In addition to the energy side, we're also pioneering practices that make sense for farming in the carbon removal side. So specifically, I was just up in Annapolis testifying for legislation that I wrote, literally, because we're building the first large-scale biochar facility. We're turning wood chips into a 90% carbon soil amendment for agriculture, which adds productivity and water holding capabilities. And then we're also pioneering another practice called wood vaulting and storage. But the basic idea is like tax advantaged land and then stacking eco-related businesses on top and then doing regenerative agriculture as well. So we're sort of we're divorcing ourselves from the typical fossil fuel based, pesticide based, rural agricultural economy, and sort of building our own plane. I guess we're flying our own plane as we build it, pretty much. So that's what we're up to.
Awesome. For those of you that aren't really too familiar, if we don't mind maybe speaking a bit more, right here behind us we have some of the sheep that are on the property.
Those are our O&M team.
We can talk a little bit about this and what their role is in kind of the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to not only the solar that there is on the property that's generating the energy you're using for mining and other purposes for agriculture, but also for the carbon purposes, right? Because these sheep are grazing. Traditionally, if you were to hire landscaping companies or use landscaping equipment, it's going to be very difficult to keep your carbon emissions low. Even if you use some of the most efficient equipment that uses the best, lowest emissions, there's a lot of waste, natural waste, and if you take all these clippings, or if you think of when you have to trim a lot of trees or other natural waste from commercial or real estate, developments, things like that, a lot of that waste goes to landfills, and it over time decomposes through natural processes, bacteria, fungi, which releases carbon and methane into the environment. These sheep, instead of having to go and cut all the property and tame the brush down with landscaping equipment and landscapers, these sheep are doing that, and their manure is fertilizing and capturing the carbon naturally, which is slowly released into the soil. And every couple of seasons, that fertilizes the pastures that they're rotated through. And they also keep the solar panels clipped and...
Wow, see how we educated our investors? That's pretty awesome. Good job, Suleiman. So, yeah, so one of the biggest expenses, if you have from a operation and maintenance side of a solar site, is actually the vegetation management. And you can imagine, and typically that's handled by mowing. And you can imagine if your mower, say, for example, hits a patch where there's a lot of pebbles, what happens to your solar array? It's pretty tragic. And so sheep actually are a much cheaper and gentler way of dealing with the vegetation management for the solar. And what's really cool is there's a symbiotic sort of relationship that's developed between the solar and the livestock. The livestock, if you've ever been to a farm, and you probably know this, right? Like when you're in a field and there's one tree, where are the cows? Under that damn tree. And so this is just a lot of trees, basically. And so the reason why they're there is just the same reason that you want shade when it's really hot. And what happens for the animals is they're under less heat stress, they consume less water, and as a result, they gain more weight. And the poop and the hooves under the panels over time drives the root structure of the grass deeper, and it basically fixes carbon. So you're making your pasture better. You have cheaper O&M costs for your solar. Your animals are healthier and they gain weight faster. So like it's a win-win-win. And like in our view, like this is the future of agriculture. So like not only you've gone from a farm that was struggling to make ends meet to a farm that is generating their own energy, minting their own money, grazing animals in a more productive way, and leaving the soil and the environment in a much better place than we got it. And that really is kind of like the holy grail, I think, of what we're up to, is like, can we build a business model and that will do these things? And, you know, when you think about it, it's pretty damn revolutionary. It's like, the level of independence that you have by producing your own power, by growing your own food, by becoming your own bank, um, it's pretty fucking cool. So, we're still like grinding it out, man. I would be lying to you if I was telling you like that we had it all figured out. Like it's been super tough, but like we're making it happen. Things are getting built. Like I can see how all of it comes together, and I'll tell you, like it's really exciting.
One other thing I was curious about, Mark, and I'm sure maybe you can touch on as well. Were there any difficulties you guys faced, any challenges when it came to trying to generate your own energy? And my second part of the question is also for lots of small farms, small businesses that may have the real estate or similar resources such as these, or maybe opportunities. Um, what are some of the reasons to consider wanting to generate your own energy versus consuming? Why is it better to be a producer versus a consumer if you're a farmer, for example?
Yeah, I mean, let's address the challenges first. First of all, this is non-trivial, okay, guys? Like, this is hard, man. I'm not trying to sugarcoat the fact that this is hard. And ironically, it's not the building part that's hard. It really isn't. The part that's hard is dealing with dumbass people in the government that want to make it as impossible as they possibly can for you to do what you need to do. Like the permitting process is, man, it's so tough. And like, it's like, oh, you forgot a comma. Well, we're going to have to resubmit that. That's 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And it adds up. And at the same time, you're like, basically living off your 401k. You know what I mean? And so, dude, it's fucking hard. And so, they're not helpful. They're not out to help you. They're actually out to find the flaw in all of the things that you do. And as a we brought an experienced engineering, procurement, and construction company, and each jurisdiction is different. And I like had to get personally involved in the permitting because I was like, man, it's been 4 months. What the hell is going on? And so it literally took us like 6 months to get the permit and 1 month to build it, like just to give you a sense. And that is what's wrong, honestly, with what's going on in the United States right now. Like, I'm not a big Trump fan, but like when they talk about permitting reform, dude, that is so real because like the government can tell you exactly what you can and can't do with your land, and they will find every period that you didn't put in or comma that you didn't add, and we'll make it as hard as possible for you to do what you need to do. And so it's just really like persistence and just never giving up, man, and like you can get it done. And I think like once you do it once, it becomes hopefully easier, right? But dude, it is tough. And so that's one of the things that we have in mind is creating a 501c3, like that once we actually prove out the business model, creating tools that can help other people that are thinking about doing this stuff do it themselves. Because the real revolution is when the farmer actually owns the energy, not